So there's a new show in town, at least for a while, and Lisa Rice is on it. I kind of felt like after our talk last Wednesday, and I think I said this to some of you guys, I certainly said it to Lisa, and it felt from the feedback I was getting, there was a lot of really good energy. Like, I love talking to Lisa. I feel like we have a lot of similar opinions, but we also have enough different ways of looking at things that it makes it kind of juicy. And and I do know that when I'm talking to you, Lisa, that I open up more and maybe say more controversial or less I'm a happy bunny things, and I think that that's important. I think Lisa and I were talking, and you chime in too, Lisa, is that, I feel like there's certain things in the community that are always said, right, that are great and we all agree on. Then there's some other things that are a little like, how do we,
For sure.
maybe we
For
need to bring
sure.
this up. And maybe you'll agree with us and maybe you won't, but maybe you'll come up with something else we should talk about or that you'd like to kind of get aired in kind of the whole food, plant-based, no oil community.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I think having an open forum, because there are a lot of things that I think weigh on people and probably your followers, and I know people who follow me, that because we're so specifically working with a whole food plant-based diet, that they don't think to bring it up, but it's still part of the conversation. And there definitely is a lot of disagreement in that community itself. So it's good to talk about those things too. And the reason I love talking to you so much, I mean, it's just like talking to my best friend. Like, we're just having a conversation, and your vulnerability is so beautiful, and your presence, and I just love that we can talk about these things, and even if, like you said, if we have different points of view, we can have really rich conversations. So I appreciate that about you so much.
Well, and I think, I know for some of you, I'm young, and for some of you, I'm really old. It depends on where you are, right? If you're in the 20s, you're like, why do people keep telling that old lady she's young, right? And then the 80-year-olds are like, I don't know if you know enough about this to be talking to me. But I feel like right now, 58 and a half feels very magical. It feels more like drawing boundaries, questioning kind of the status quo in different ways than I did when I was 20. It wasn't just, I don't believe in any of these things. I also didn't believe that you got, like, your joints got achy when you got old, that you grew mysterious hairs on your face. I thought, oh, that's never going to happen to me. So I feel like my 58 and a half year old awakening is with more knowledge and then
Hmm.
kind of looking at things. And I just love the way Lisa is just so honest and comes to the table with what you're thinking, and that I feel like, I know this is going to sound silly, but you're just a good person.
I
Ever
feel
since
that
the
way about you.
right, it's like we met, and immediately I'm like, oh, that's one of the good ones. I'm keeping her.
Same. Um, I want to say that I call myself anti-aging, because to me, it's like I've been having this conversation with a lot of women lately, not just women in our generation, but younger women, older women, and how, as especially for women, like, men get the pass, like they get distinguished when they get gray hair. They don't have to worry about their wrinkles. They are still embraced for the way they look, but women are really judged still. But in our culture, in other cultures like in Europe and Japan, older women are revered and respected. They're the elders with the wisdom. Menopause isn't like this weird conversation, it's part of the normal living. And I really want to make it like that here, like where we can have these conversations and where women are viewed differently. And I'm starting to see that happen a little bit. Like, I saw this article in The Guardian yesterday. I sent it to Lauren. And it was like everybody was falling over themselves because Pamela Anderson showed up at something without any makeup, right? And Andy McDowell and Helen Mirren had like their wild white and gray hair, embracing their age. And that's the way it should be all the time. That shouldn't be some like, oh my gosh, look what happened. It should be normal, you know?
Absolutely. And like, remember when Keanu Reeves actually showed up with someone his own age who had kind of whitish gray hair? Everybody was like,
Yeah.
oh, aghast. And it's like,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
yeah, it's okay to date in your age range. And,
Hmm.
and I'm not trying to shame anyone for anything else.
Hmm.
However, and you live in California, so I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, kind of Scottsdale area, and even all of the like plastic surgery stuff would leak over into our papers. So like it was close enough to kind of the LA thing that everyone was getting a lot of surgery
Yeah.
and
I mean, the thing is with the surgery, because I have this conversation a lot, because a lot of my friends, pretty much most of my friends, are either getting like Botox or filler, or I've had a couple of friends who've had like partial facelifts. And I think like, I think it's a personal choice, and I don't want to judge anyone. Like, women should do whatever they can to feel whatever's going to help them feel good about themselves. What makes me sad is that that's an extreme way to feel good about yourself. It costs a lot of money. It's a pain. They're painful procedures. And I think that's because of the pressure, the cultural pressure for women to look a certain way. And when I look at these movie stars, like I saw some tabloid that popped up in my Facebook, and it was like Courtney Cox and Meg Ryan and one other celebrity who had gotten like all this work done, and they looked all the same. They all have the same face now. And I'm like, they were so beautiful, and they would have been so beautiful as their older selves, you know? And but of course that's Hollywood, and there's a lot more pressure for women in Hollywood. But even, but I'm starting to feel the pressure, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one who's not doing that. When I get together with my friends, do they think I look old? you know and if I say I'm going to let my gray grow out, which I'm in the process of doing, they're like, oh, I can see them like, oh no, and one of my friends said, oh, well, I have another friend who let her gray grow out, and she looks really old now. And I mean, and I said, you mean she looks her age? Like, is it okay to look my age?
well, and I think that I get all squidgy about surgery in general. So like I still think my wisdom teeth, getting them taken out, like when they ask what surgeries I've had at the doctor, I'm like, I had my wisdom teeth out. So there's that I'm a little weird about it. And I think it's different. Like if it's, I don't know. I'm sure someone who wants plastic surgery would probably go to town. They'd use up a whole marker on my body. But I've got like the bat wing thing going. I have the I'm over 50 right here. And I think it's fine if you're like, well, I do question it, and I'll tell you why. Because if this is what my whole like personality stands on, or my confidence stands on, or what I think I can do, that's where I see it being a problem. So let's say it seems like, I don't know, a couple of months of therapy would probably cost way less than getting this taken care of. And
Absolutely.
and I have always loved, because my mother died when I was like 21, and I didn't really get to see people age well. And then I was going to this women's writing retreat a few decades ago, and I got to see croning ceremonies and stuff. It was super touchy-feely. And so, of course, they were not doing all of that. So I got to kind of see some women embracing that. But like you were saying, it's Helen Mirren, right? Like,
Yes.
she's gorgeous.
Exactly.
She's
Exactly.
absolutely gorgeous. And it's the eyes, it's the inside, and her
She's
posture.
confident. Yeah,
Right?
she owns her being. And I have women friends, in sort of the periphery, not close friends, who have let their hair go gray. They're not doing any of that, and they are very confident. And to me, they're beautiful as well. And I think that has so much to do with it, and just your inner self. How are you feeling inside? And I do think that, for my friends who are really focused on that, well, not all of them, but a couple of them are single, they're divorced and they're trying to meet another partner. And so they're feeling the pressure because they've got all this competition. And I don't know, it's a slippery slope though, it's like how much, when do you stop? When do you say, that's enough? So I would just prefer our culture to embrace women at the age they are. And in terms of aging well, it's like eating a whole food plant-based diet, getting some movement, getting some sunlight, having a community, all the things that keep everyone healthy, whether you're 20 or you're 80, right? And also, what's important to me, which we were talking about a little bit before we started, is that you're never too old to do anything, like to make changes. Like you might be too old to become an Olympic gymnast, but like you're never too old to, like me. I'm going back to college. I never finished and got my BA, so I'm going back next year to San Francisco State. I have a friend who wrote her first book when she turned 60, and she's written 4 books since then, and she's about to turn 80. So I think that we need to realize that we're always growing and evolving, we're always learning. Like I know, as a woman who just turned 60, I really value that, that I can still learn and evolve and change and still do things I'm interested in.
Well, I think that's what, the beauty of life is that you keep going and growing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things is I think they said it in the blue zones, but also like, and what's the doctor's name? The 100-year-old doctor who was at Live Your Best Life.
Oh, I forgot his name.
But
Yeah, he was.
he's obviously part of community. He's super excited about doing these talks. It's reinvigorated him, and he has this little impish like sparkle in his eye.
Well, and he's 100 years old, and he did his entire presentation without any cue cards or without a prompter. And I follow the Eyes, and they're about brain health. Like, they have the 30-day Alzheimer's solution and how to prevent dementia, and it's keeping your mind sharp and active is one of the ways to prevent that.
And it's so cool to see. And like, even when you're seeing, like, if you watch the Blue Zones, it's on Netflix. So if you already pay for it, it's free. So watch it while it's there. But it seemed like all the older people they were interviewing, at least, really had this kind of community, tied to community, things like that. And I do agree. And Justine says, if little tweaks here and there will help someone's self-esteem, then that's okay too. And
I agree.
And I have a harder time with that. Like, I would, like, if you were my friend and you did it, I wouldn't say anything to you because it's your business, right?
Right.
It's the same
Exactly.
thing. Like, I never understand if someone gains or loses 5 pounds, why they got to be all up in there. Unless, if I knew you're trying to release weight, I would say something. But if I didn't know, I probably wouldn't say anything. And
I think it's not so much about getting the work done, and I totally believe that. Like, if getting a little Botox is going to make you feel better about yourself, I think for me it's more the pressure. I think that if Botox didn't exist and plastic surgery didn't exist, we would be all having to embrace our wrinkles and our fine lines that we get naturally as we age. I think that there's just a lot of pressure now, and that women in particular are judged for looking old rather than maturing like a man, and I think it's more about that I think women are feeling the pressure to do it, as opposed to, like, if it didn't exist, we wouldn't be, we would be looking at other ways, right? Like eating well and moving our bodies and, wearing sunscreen or whatever it is.
well, and I think some of it too goes to, and again, I totally understand if you're in Hollywood and you decide to do so. Some women have decided to age, and I'm sure there was a period, a decade or two, that was really rough, and they probably didn't work because of it. So I don't want to belittle that either. But sometimes I feel like we're just getting older, but we're not necessarily becoming more accepting of ourselves. Like, so we didn't like our bodies when we were 20, even though we were 6 sizes smaller, and if we had that body now, we'd be like, ooh, I'm wearing a bikini now, and I'm going to go to the grocery store, whatever. Like, you don't appreciate what you have while you have it. I'm sure when I'm 80, I will look at 58 and a half going, and what was the problem, right? So there's some of that. But it is really hard when I think there's two things about it that's really hard. One is if your friends are doing it, and then all of a sudden it not feeling like a choice to
Yeah.
do it, but
I
a
mean,
choice to not
yeah.
do it.
That's the thing for me. Like when I get to, like I had I went to happy hour with a few girlfriends the other night and they're all doing it and I'm the only one at the table who's not doing it. And that's what it is. I'm like, are they judging me for looking old? You know, because I'm not doing it. And I did honestly, to be honest with you, a couple of years ago, I did consult with a doctor about Botox and I was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I also couldn't afford it. I'm like, because you have to keep doing it. So I'm like, I think, you know, it's not that I can't afford it. It's just that like I have other things would rather spend that money on. But I did look into it. I admit it because I was worried, but it was more having to do with my friends not having any 11s here or not having any frown lines because they get it all the time.
Yeah, and Marie says beauty comes in all forms and sizes. Seems to come to confidence and attitudes. And Diana was saying we're right, and also that
Absolutely.
I know I thought about stopping coloring my hair. My friend said, "Oh no, you want to look like your mom," and like that's
I get
totally.
that.
I
Yeah.
think one of my things that I will say during the Lisa and Kathy show will be stay in your lane. And that was a
Yeah.
not in your lane comment as far as I'm concerned, because
Yeah.
do you want to die now at 30 or do you want to get 40? My answer is easy. Like if I had not progressed, I would die stupid and unhappy in my 20s, right? I could
Yeah.
I don't need to look like I'm 20, and I think it is different and it is harder when you're single again. You find yourself single again when you're older, and then yes, like then I don't wear my Halloween t-shirts all year long. Then I'll stay out after 9 o'clock because I have to. There's certain little things you do,
Yeah.
and what was interesting to me, and I don't know if you guys, I had a little thing. I don't think I can do my arm where you can see it. Let's see. There you go. Just
Oh,
a
I can
little
see.
teeny tiny
Aw,
thing,
got a
a
boo-boo.
bump. I went to the dermatologist, which I hadn't been to before, and they shaved it off. And actually, it was precancerous, so I'm glad that I got it done. And they're going to freeze something, and it's no big deal. It took no time. But what was weird to me was going in there. I'm in the waiting room. There's a line of skincare. I'm like, I'm just at the dermatologist to get something scraped off. And like I went to the bathroom and there was like, oh, in May we have this Botox special or we have this other surgery special. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
there,
big business. It's big business.
it's different
But
for me.
I agree with whoever said beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, and that's absolutely true. And that's another thing that I think we talked a little bit about that last time, about that unrealistic ideal for skinny does not make you happy. And some of us, because of our genetics or our bone structure or whatever, or our health issues, are never going to be fit that ideal that's being thrown at us in the billboards and the magazines. And I've really been inspired by listening to a lot of like women on podcasts and things who are really fighting that stereotype. And I feel like there are small changes happening, but not enough.
And Kathy says, one of my heroes is Judi Dench. Yes.
Yes, I love her.
She's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's funny to me because I'm of the age that I didn't necessarily see all of them when all of the people who are aging beautifully and naturally. I didn't always
Yeah.
see them when they were younger. And you see some younger pictures and you're like, dude, you were so hot. But also now I'm just like, such a commanding, authoritative, smart presence. And to me, that's more of a goal or goals than I want to have Kim Kardashian's butt. Right? And like I
Yeah.
got that now. I didn't get everything else sucked out to look exactly like that, or I wasn't
Listen,
skinny and got stuff.
If I had Jennifer Lopez's money, I would be doing everything she's doing. No, not really. I, wa- I always say that to the person who was coloring my hair. I'm like, make me look like Jennifer Lopez.
That's
But
hilarious.
but honestly, I think that one of the great things that comes with getting older is I feel like for the most part, like we do become more accepting of ourselves and more comfortable in our skin. Maybe that's not true for everyone, but I feel like for me and for a lot of people I know, that is true.
Well, that's kind of the goal and the hope, at the very
Right.
least, is that okay? As we age, yes, because my doctor used to say aging is not for wimps, because
Mm-hmm.
you know. I noticed little things. You notice these little things that you could get away with. Like I used to walk until I
Mm-hmm.
would just have blisters and walk home and I'd be okay. Or I'd go to yoga and I'd be like, I'm going to yoga for twice a day for 2 weeks because I have a holiday. And I'd pull my quads and my hamstrings.
Yeah.
Awesome to go to the bathroom that way. When you live alone. So it was very exciting, but now instead of doing those stupid things, which I could get away with, I just have to be a little more mindful. Like if I know I want to start a new physical practice, I try to think
Yeah.
about it and be
Mm-hmm.
responsible.
Well, see that, and so what I meant by what I just said was I think it's about self-awareness. There's just more self-awareness. I think that's what it comes down to because you've just been evolving for so long. You get to know yourself better, right? Would you say?
I would. I totally would. And like Diana was saying, I had J Lo's booty back in the day and was embarrassed. I didn't know that that was the
Oh.
end thing. And we talked about this last time. Is that it's kind of like there's always been a fashion, like a body
Mm-hmm.
type that's in fashion, like in heroin chic, right? And then it's
Mm-hmm.
been Brazilian butt lift territory. We're kind of I think coming out of that. And what I like fast fashion is bad enough and it's bad for the whole world and global warming,
Absolutely.
but it's like we're starting to look at our bodies in terms of that with
Mm-hmm.
surgery, and I think that's what I see. Like, who knows, maybe one day
Mm-hmm.
I would get my bat wings fixed. I would be really surprised, but I'll leave the door open for that. But it's it's expensive. Things can go wrong. Like I know we all have the amount of like the percentage that will do things. Like I wear my
Mm-hmm.
N95 mask into things that maybe some other people wouldn't. Maybe that 5% chance isn't acceptable to them. Good with
Mm-hmm.
it. But like also I think that's another thing with surgery is it's not like eating whole food plant-based no oil. Like you could do it for 4 days. If it does, 4 days to 4 months, yeah, that's not really working for me. Let me try something else. It's not like you can go, oh, they cut some of my skin and stuff off. Can you put
Well, and
that
that's
back
incredibly
on?
painful too. Like the recovery. A friend of mine who she's a very close friend of mine, and she gets a lot of work done pretty regularly. And every time she has a procedure done, she's bandaged up, and she can't go outside, and she can't do her activities, and it's like recovering from surgery basically. And I'm like, that's a lot to have to go through to try to make yourself look the way you think you should look, and I think that's the part that makes me sad that she doesn't have to do that, like, but she feels like she does. um yeah.
Well, and another thing, and I mean, again, surgery phobic, I do find that in general things heal slower as you get older. Like just general things
Hmm.
like, oh, I twisted my ankle a little bit. Okay, I can't go off the road to go to our little hiking trail. I'll just stay on the road until it's healed. And maybe it'll take a week, maybe it'll take 2 weeks. And so when I'm looking at these little minutia, if I think someone's just oh, I'm just like that. Like even I'm not worried about this because I'm a scraper. I'll scrape
Yeah.
a bump right off. They could have just said, "Hey, why don't you take that off and send it in?" I'd be like, "Okay." I'll go like put a lighter next to my fingernail clippers or something.
You know what? It's funny because, when I was younger, I wouldn't leave the house without like mascara, I'd always have to have like something on my eyes. And now it's like such a chore. Like, I don't, I hate putting makeup on. I'm lucky that I have a husband who loves me without it. He prefers me without it, and that I'm grateful for that. But like it's interesting how we change over time. There were so many things that were important to me, and just like every woman of our generation and the generations before that, we were obsessed with our weight and all those things. And I find that now I have let so much of that go. But I do want to talk about, the things that we can do to age well. It's not about anti-aging because we're all aging. We can't stop the aging process, right? But we can age well. Like you see people, I volunteer with a senior organization, an elder organization in San Francisco. And um, there's a woman who's 78 who I'm helping, and she's in horrible shape. She's really isolated. She doesn't eat well. She is a, won't, she just doesn't have a lot of interaction with the world. And she has made a lot of bad choices in terms of healthy living, moving and eating well and getting out and community, all the things we know are healthy for us. And then I've got a friend, Joan, who's about to turn 80, my friend who published her first book when she was 60, and she can, her energy puts me under the table. Like she's tango dancing and she still teaches yoga, and she's just got so much energy. She looks fantastic because she's engaged in life. She's doing all those things that we all know to be true. And so I think, you know, staying interested, having a purpose, doing things you enjoy, not just things that you feel like you need to be doing. Like a lot of us are still, needing to earn a living, but it's important to also have fun and have some play, right? All those things are hugely important. And I think it makes a huge difference between aging well and not aging well.
I totally agree with you. And I think that some of it is the energy that gets created when you put your energy somewhere interesting or somewhere that's helping you. And I mean, maybe some people really are, like, plastic surgery is their hobby. They're very interested in that. Maybe they're reading a lot about it. I can see how that can keep you engaged. But for me, if I really just keep, if I have a day that I look and I'm like, well, it would be nice if this wasn't here or if that wasn't here, usually I'm not doing something super productive with my mind, my energy. I'm not reaching out. So I think, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but if you went through your dark teens phase, like I remember that, and I was like, oh, I had a unibrow, and I would sit in the mirror and I'd pluck my brows, and I'd do this, and I'd work
I was
on my
squeezing
makeup.
pimples.
Yeah, right. And the thing is that you, at that point, it's not like you can usually get in your car, just go do something. Oh, I'm going to go look at a bookstore. Oh, I'm going to go meet a friend out for coffee. It turns into this negative hyperfixation. And it's probably not that way with everyone who's getting Botox and things like this. But I worked with someone who was getting a lot of Botox in their 30s, early 30s, because they were trying to make this perfect face. And so when you're talking about your friend and doing tango dancing and doing all this, I think it's a difference between, I'm not good enough, I need to fix these things before I'm able to do any of the stuff that I want to do, and screw it. I am 58 and a half, and I'm going to live my best life, and I'm going to do these things. And you know what? If someone doesn't like me tangoing, they can look the other way. And to me, I feel like that's the older person I hope to embody.
Yeah, I think your attitude has like so much to do with it. And if you don't feel like, if you're constantly self-flagellating and feel like you can't do that, then there are ways to get out of that. There's resources to help you, to support you, and I think that's important too, because it's never too late to get that kind of support also. And then, as I said, my mom has like her memory is better than mine. She's kind of frail now. She's 85. She's not as physically, she's not physically active, really. Just she goes for walks and gardens, but her mind is so sharp, and that's because she's a voracious reader. She keeps a journal. She watches stimulating programs. She has a group, they're called the Lunch Bunch. They're all, seniors, and they get together, once every 2 weeks to have lunch together. So she's kept her mind very active. And there are studies that show that will help you stay sharp as you get older.
I think that's amazing and perfect. I mean, I think as I'm trying to make goals, we're trying to move more, be more physically active, and work into that. And I know a lot of people watching maybe aren't doing as much movement as you would like to be doing, or struggle with that. But don't forget, little things that have helped us are like, we have a dog. He would like to be walked. So, and if we take him for a couple times, the third time he's going to remind us. So that's helpful. But like, I got a treadmill and we got a spin bike to keep in the house. I'm not going to probably use those much the next month or so. But when it's cold, I'm going to use it every day. When it's hot, I'm going to use it every day. So, and think of something that's not hard. Like even sometimes if you have certain injuries, you can like do a recumbent bike or something like that. And I know where we are, there's a thrift store that ends up with a lot of that equipment, or you can find it on Facebook Marketplace. So it doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah, also there's so many great videos on YouTube. I taught chair yoga at the clinic for there were a lot of people who came to the clinic who had incapacitated in some way, or they had some injury, or they had some illness where they couldn't do rigorous physical activity. So we would do chair yoga. There are a lot of resources for that kind of thing. Like you said, just moving a little bit. And I'm a big fan of using your environment. Like you said, get a dog if that'll inspire you to walk. Have you seen that viral video of the guy who got the dog Petey? Did you ever see that?
Yes, and they both lose weight together. Is that the same one?
They both, yeah.
He got a middle-aged overweight dog for his middle-aged overweight self, right?
Yes,
it was awesome.
So, and not everyone can have a dog, but that's like one thing. But also just, using your environment. And there's a woman I follow on Instagram. If y'all don't follow her, I absolutely love her. She goes by Aging Disgracefully. And I think she's Australian, Dr. Kate. You know what? If you search Aging Disgracefully, you might not find her. But she has these great little videos she posts of just little movements you can do wherever you are, breathing exercises. She's really into yoga. So a lot of her stuff is yoga, but not like hot yoga or, rigorous yoga. It's just sort of simple things you can do wherever you are. She has videos that I showed my mom of how important it is to be able to get up off the floor without assistance. In places like Japan, they sit on tatami mats so the elderly people can get up and down off the floor. My mom fell recently and there was no one around and she couldn't get up on her own. She had to grab onto something and pull herself up. So Aging Disgracefully, she has videos on how to practice getting up from seated without using your hands, and then to practice getting up from the floor without using your hands. Just little things like that. Let me see if I can find her. Her name is Dr.
It's aging-disgracefully.co.
No, wait. Here's
that
Dr. K. Cleaver.
K. Cleve, CLEAV.
Cleve, that's it. Yes.
Okay, then this is the same one. So I just looked that up.
Okay.
And so she does have something at aging-disgracefully.co, and it's got a
okay, and then and if you're on Instagram, it's Aging Disgracefully, and that's where I don't know, do you see her videos there?
Yeah, it's Aging Disgracefully _.
Okay.
And that's why it's a little bit weird. But yeah, she's got like a mobility challenge. I like this, how badass women get into cars, hand exercises. It's really improved posture. No, these are awesome.
Yeah, I love her. I just started following her recently. I want to interview her. Lauren and I started a podcast that we haven't released yet because we're trying to get a bunch of interviews done first, and I'm going to see if I can get her on our show, which is called "Age Like a Badass Mother."
That's awesome.
I can't hear you. Uh-oh. I lost your
Sorry.
audio.
It's because
Oh, there
when
you
I
are.
switch
Okay.
scenes, sometimes it doesn't always do right. But like, because it's as we're trying to age well, we need to think about mentally stimulating ourselves, like reading, watching something interesting. And I think that, it doesn't mean you can't read for fun. It doesn't mean my cozy witch tea shop murder mysteries are off the table either. Just to keep doing something entertaining, use your imagination.
Yeah, crossword puzzles, Wordle, games. Those are good too. And in fact, I think I've seen ads because now I'm at that age where I get like ARP ads and stuff. I've seen ads for like these, brain stimulating games as you get older. I haven't ever looked at any of them, but there are a lot of things like that out there. It doesn't have to be like reading Tolstoy or something.
Right. And I think you get to, and make sure when you're making these goals, or at least this is what I'm trying to do. I don't always do it. Sometimes I'm very much like, you are going to do A, B, and C. Yeah, you don't like to do any of them, but that's what you're going to do. Is that, if you just haven't been reading enough, what's fun to read? Then, when you're bored, maybe I know all my friends do Wordle. I am not the
Yeah.
best speller, so I don't like
I
spelling
haven't done
games.
it yet. I should. I love Scrabble. I haven't done Wordle yet.
And see, I think Scrabble is the tool of the devil.
My family, that's our chosen family game is Scrabble. We love Scrabble.
That's
I
awesome.
rarely win. Our son always wins. He's 19. He's always the winner.
That's really funny. Oh, and CJ in Scotland is learning Welsh to keep her brain engaged, and that's pretty awesome. And
Absolutely, a new language. Good for you.
yeah, and there's so many things we can do. Like on YouTube, you really can learn anything.
That's true.
And
That's true.
it doesn't cost anything either. So I think that that's
Yeah.
really good. So if you can just move a little, think a little, pretty much every day, and not isolate yourself 100%. Like sometimes I totally want to isolate. So I don't know about the rest of you,
There's a
but
difference though. There's a difference between needing alone time and downtime, because I'm that way too. I have to have my downtime. But having support, and Dan Buettner and the Blue Zones, now that it's on Netflix, it's becoming more popular. So this information is more readily available. But it's like having a friend you can call, or more than one friend, but at least one friend you can call when you need someone to talk to, or a family member. That's like, instead of just they're being like, I need to deal with this alone, I can't talk to anybody, just having someone, and then also having purpose. you know that's one of the Blue Zones pillars, is having purpose, and those things are important, as well as eating well, plant slant, as much as you can, whole food, plant based. And movement doesn't, you're right, it doesn't have to be an hour slogging it at the gym and hating your life while you're doing it. That's not it at all, because studies have shown that there are people who have regular, they'll work out for an hour and really hard, and then they go to their job and they sit for 15 hours, and that's actually not healthy. It's better if you're moving a little bit throughout the day. So, for me, I do have to remind myself that, and I'm an active person. I love working out. I love walking my dogs, but I can find myself sitting and working, especially since I love to write, for hours on end. So I have to set a little timer for myself to remind myself to get up and at least walk around the room, do some stretching, just even if it's just for a minute or two.
oh, that's super smart.
Yeah.
My watch, so I get Cheryl's hand-me-down Apple Watches. And a lot of times they'll go, you can still meet your scan goal. And I love it when it does that at like 9 o'clock at night. It's like, only 12 more hours to go. I'm like, no. But it is not. With my job, I end up either standing up on my feet a lot, but doing kitchen work,
That's
or
great.
I'm on the computer all day writing,
Right.
catching up on things and doing things like that. So it can be easy to hyper focus and forget the
Mm-hmm.
rest. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
would be interested if anybody has a program or something that they use, maybe put on their phone or their computer that maybe helps that we could share with everybody. I'm I'm stodgy. So if like I'm on like my fourth of 10 emails, I'm not getting up. Like so I need something to tell me. Do you send anything or do you just kind of are you more of a grown up than I am and less stubborn?
Who I'm not stubborn. I do, but I think we can all get sucked into the rabbit hole of whatever we're working on, right? So I think it's just having something to remind you to take a break, I think is important. And it's funny what you said about the watch, because what drives me nuts, I'll be sitting in a movie theater watching a movie and it's like my watch tells me time to stand. I'm like, I can't stand right now. But
You
yeah,
don't know
the
me.
watch. Exactly. Damn you. Um, but yeah, no, the watches are good because you can, count your steps, but you can do that with your phone too. I never use that, but I have a friend who constantly is using the step counter. And so when she's done working, at the end of the day, she goes for a walk or a hike every single day to make sure she's, moving her body. And she does it in the morning as well. So there are a lot of little things like that you can do. And, it can be hard, but I think having reminders and also just thinking about why. Like for me, I want to age well. So I don't want my body to break down. You rest, you rust kind of thing. Like if we rest too much, our joints are going to get achy. So I think that for me, it's just being vital as long as I can.
I think that's really good to have that goal so clear in your mind as well.
Hmm.
And I think that's really interesting. And I do think, like, I learned a lot of things looking at the blue zone too. Like, all of it, I'm not sure I want to incorporate now. And by that, I mean, like, like having those lunch groups that you do constantly. Since I'm still, I think there's like where you're at a time of learning, then you're at a time of work, and then some of us progress to, and you have a time of working for yourself. So you are all the pieces and parts, which is a little harder
Hmm.
than just going to a job 8 hours a day in some ways to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel like then you
Well,
graduate and you get to have more free time.
well, and you have to remember in those blue zones communities, there are generations of families who've never left their town. And so they have a bigger structure of community to begin with. Most of us in this country don't live near our relatives, right? And so we have to depend upon our community as that support system. The friends are the family we create, right? And the other thing I wanted to say, there are certain, like I follow the Sherzais, like I said, I love Dr. Sherzai, Dean and Aisha. They're the brain docs and they're whole food plant based. And they have a book called The 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution. And they have certain foods, like I try to have a little small handful of walnuts every day because it's really good for your brain. The healthy fats, small amounts of healthy fats in your diet that can help boost your brain. Obviously sleep is really important, for not just overall health, but also for brain function. So I like to think about those things as well. Exercise too, just getting your blood flow moving in your body. And when I say exercise, I mean movement. The default is to say exercise, but it's really movement, keeping your blood flow. So, we're helping our physical bodies, we're helping our mental capacity, all these things. And, as we've talked about, not just for aging, just for any age, really.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense too. I'm just I don't know. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
My brain just blanked out for no good reason, so there you go. Yeah, switching sometimes is crazy for me. I think also this week, I think I've done too many mental things. So I also have to sometimes take some things off my plate that I planned. I don't know if you ever do that. You're like, oh, I did a video yesterday. I'm going to do 4 tomorrow, and I'm going to do 12 by the end of the week. And so I had decided I was going to do a live cooking demo every day in addition to my other lives. And then I kind of went, no, if I'm doing another live, I think I'm not going to do 2 right now because I'm also.
Well, you know how you tell me your boss works you too hard? You need to learn to say no to your boss, because as you were speaking, I'm like being able to say no when someone asks you for something or to do something is very important. For you, that's saying no to yourself. I'm not going to do that.
Well, and for me, I still need certain signs. Like, so I did 2 on Tuesday and I started losing my voice. And usually, the more I'm pushing myself, the more I lose my voice because I'm doing so much live talking. And so I think for me right now, that's one of the things that I have to think about instead of. I think part of me wants to go, oh, you need to do more with community. You need to do more with this. And it's like, but we're doing stuff with community now. We have this online community.
That's true.
I have the Heartbeat community where we get to do some things together. But it's also an interesting time where maybe I'm throwing everything up and putting it back together. That's what 58 and a half is, boundaries. 58 and a half is like, does this serve me?
Well, one thing I want to say to anyone who's watching, if you're a parent, you'll relate to this. When you have kids, you look at, like in terms of dietary habits, you don't look at what they're eating every day. You look at what they ate for the week, right? Because kids can be finicky about food. And I like to look at all these things instead of putting your pressure on yourself to eat 100% whole food, plant-based every day, to move your body every day, to be in community every day, to blah, 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 whatever they are. Take the pressure off a little bit. And what does your week look like? I think that's really important. Like, did you move enough for 3 or 4 days a week? Did how many days a week did you have leafy greens and whole grains and beans? For some of us who have the habit of eating whole food, plant-based, and that's what we do, we don't think about it. But if you're someone who's incorporating it, take the pressure off of it being this everyday, every meal thing. Start small and build from there. Same with movement, same with any of it.
No, that makes so much, and it's reasonable. And I think reasonable is what I often lack.
Well, last week we talked about, perfection is the enemy of good, right? And it's not about perfection. It's like if you go out and have a crappy meal, does that mean that's it? You're done. That's just how you're going to be? No, you make your next meal a better meal. That's more in alignment with your goals and your values. Same with everything. You don't have to, commit to this 110%. Just do the best you can. And I think that's the message. Don't try to be perfect all the time.
I agree. And I think my perfectionistic sneaks in a funny, weird way now because from having a lot of depression and anxiety basically through COVID on. So it was like 2.5 years of that. And so I think there is a part of me that's kind of like, okay, because I taught myself, okay, you've got energy today, just do as much as you can. And then tomorrow, maybe you don't have energy to do anything. Whereas now I feel like since I have been eating whole food, plant-based, no oil super consistently, that's a different story. And
So your energy's better?
My energy's better, but I think something in my brain that was helping me get things done and not quit has not adjusted to that. Because I'm going to be gone next week. And so I'm getting some things prepared for that. Plus, we're taking some food to cook on the road. And it's a conference. So it's a lot of things to get ready for that. Some of the sit down work I can do in the car, but I'm also we're going to have some vacation time. right? So part of my mind, I've noticed this week, keeps wanting to really just push and squeeze out that last little bit that it can. And the fact is, you know what? If I don't go live next week at all, which something will happen, don't worry, people. But the world would not end. All of you would not be, I'm done with Kathy Hester. She didn't do exactly what I wanted. So, but I think sometimes in my mind, I'm like, no, I got to get this done and I got to get that done. But hopefully I'll get to go live and show you that I'm in Salem, Massachusetts, right? That'd be way more fun than maybe seeing me make a recipe. Or maybe that's just more fun for me. I don't know. But it's interesting as we get older and as we grow, kind of seeing what patterns we've kind of displaced for better ones, but then to see the ones that keep trying to come in and go, no, here I am again, right? You know?
Yeah. I think, yeah, like I said, for me, self-awareness has been a big one, and self-acceptance. I'm actually doing, I have a coach who's a friend of mine who does IFS, internal family systems, and NVC, nonviolent communication. And I've been doing sessions with him weekly. And I have to say, it's pretty incredible because you get to look at, you know how like we get mad at ourselves if we lose our temper, or we're judging ourselves for certain emotions. And the IFS has really helped me like sort of embrace all those things about myself. It's really cool. I mean, it's for me, it's like part of my goal. And it's not even a conscious goal, only because I'm speaking of it now, but like self-acceptance has been a big one for me. That as at this age, I'm more comfortable with myself than I've ever been.
I think that comes along with at least mid to late 50s in general on. Because I truly do not care. There are stronger words that could be used there that you might see in memes out and about. But it's just like I literally do not care what someone thinks of me at the grocery store. I literally, like I'll go, okay, I'm going to the doctor. I will shower before I leave the house. Like these are the conscious decisions. Yeah, I'm going to take a walk. I'm not seeing anybody. I can brush my teeth when I get home. Whereas when I was 16, I lived in a rural area and I would put on full makeup to go get the mail where no one would see me, just in case.
Well, I'll tell you something. I save a lot of money now on things like shampoo and conditioner, but I do spend more money on dry shampoo.
Dry shampoo is awesome. And that is one of the benefits of aging people. At least I've noticed, like my hair is actually thicker. I do have a couple of little bald spots that are probably scars from when I was younger, but my hair is thicker and I don't wash it as often. Like it used to get greasy, and now it's like the hairs on my legs are so thin that I almost never have to shave my legs. And like there are these beautiful, now granted, we get chin, I don't know how a chin hair can pop out that big that fast. But, it's just a simple pluck. It's not that, I feel like maintenance is easier. And you can make dry shampoo at home. You've got dark hair, so you could use cocoa powder.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever done
like with like tapioca or like cornstarch, right? You mix it with that, yeah. And then you smell like chocolate.
You'd smell delicious.
Well, dry shampoo is one of the greatest inventions in the 20th century, so 21st century, well, whenever it was invented, that I really appreciate now that I'm older. But I would love to hear from your viewers, though, like, some of the things they'd like to know more about and what they'd like more support with, or some topics, because, this is something I'm really delving into now, especially like the peri and postmenopausal years, peri, post. So that's something I'm interested in talking about too.
So you guys, you heard that, I hope, and go put some questions in for now and for later, because Lisa wants to answer them and help you. And I think that, I feel like maybe it's because I am postmenopausal now, but as I was perimenopausal, I started noticing more things coming up about it, but it seems like the topic is more talked about now than it was 20 years ago, just in general magazines and things like that. Whereas before it's just, that special, time we hear about hot flashes. And I know that when I was premenopausal, I was on a micro dose almost of Prozac because it affected my hormonal mental state. I was on the same dose the cat was on, actually. We shared
That's easy.
meds.
That's easy. One prescription.
Right. So I do know that different things can happen in that way, and I think sometimes people either feel nervous or ashamed or like theirs must be worse or all these different things. Like I know there's the whole conversation about hormones, which I never ended up having with my doctor. It just wasn't brought up, but I know some people decided not to, some people decide to, and it seems like
I did bioidenticals as I was going through it just because I was having a lot of symptoms that were, it wasn't the night sweats or the hot flashes, it was more other things that had to do with libido and, dryness and fatigue and, horrible mood swings. And the bioidenticals really helped me. But that's, not everybody needs to do that. Chinese medicine works really well. There's Chinese herbs, there's a lot of Western herbs. And some people, and everyone's different. Like I have friends who have barely had symptoms, and I'm like, lucky you. And then, some people have more severe symptoms, but it's nothing to fear and it's all manageable.
that's a great way to put it. There's nothing to fear, and it's going to happen anyhow. And I think that really speaks to our other conversation. Everything else that we're talking, you're going to get wrinkles. You're going to have that chin hair. I swear to you, I don't care how old you are. It's going to happen. And the day it happens, like for a long time, a friend of mine and I, we were born in the same year. So we'd be like, are you getting these weird chin hairs? And we're like, yes. How is that even possible? So I think talking about it with people makes it seem a little less weird.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Pulde, who I work with at WeHeal, she and Simona Lederman, who's the trauma-informed trauma recovery specialist, they started a women's circle that they're doing. It's starting this month and it's going to go for a year. And it's about women supporting women. And so that's a resource I just wanted to let people know about. I just remembered that they start this month. So it's like they're trying to create a community where women can be supported in all the changes that we're going through, no matter what age you are.
I love that. And if you send me the information, I'll put it in the show notes over on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you guys are watching
Okay.
from somewhere else, because that'll be really great. I will also put in the Instagram lady
Okay.
that we were talking about in there too. And Diana says, I found this amazing face wash and moisturizer. I have rosacea and very dry skin. I went through chemo and it threw me into menopause. I was 47 when I was diagnosed and now I'm 57. And your picture, I swear, looks like you're 17 years old. So for any of these numbers thrown out, I don't know if you could see the little mini picture when I put it up, but oh my gosh. So I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about as far as like things that bring on menopause. Is that something we need to think of differently, or do we still just go to the same menopausal resources?
Well, that's a great question. I have a friend who also went through chemo and it put her into early menopause. Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask her about that because she is a holistic healer. She and I met in acupuncture school. And, I know she did the Western treatment, but I would think that what I would suggest for anybody who's going through anything like that is all the things we talked about, eating well, getting enough sleep, moving, are going to help you in your symptoms and recovery in some way. I know that with my friend, that was really, she still had horrible side effects from, the chemo and the radiation and things, but she feels like she was stronger in her recovery because she ate well and she had these other things that she did. But I think everybody's journey is going to be a little different.
Well, I think that makes sense too, though.
Yeah.
Because when you're putting good stuff in, it's a little easier to get good stuff out. Now, obviously, that's not 100% across the board, because maybe you're putting stuff good stuff in and you got COVID, so you're not having a lot of good energy, but you're probably speeding up your healing process more than if you just drank Coca-Cola.
Right,
Had a
exactly.
donut.
Yeah, we want to keep our constitution strong. In Chinese medicine, what we would call it our constitution, our underlying, state. So, yeah, we want to do everything we can to stay strong. So when we do face these things, we have the foundation to help recover.
Well, and here's a question from Mona. How do you fight the fatigue? And again, we're talking about, I've been struggling lately and don't know if it's a mental or physical issue. And that came about the time I believe we were talking about menopausal symptoms as well. So Mona, that's how I'm looking at this, but if that's not the case, write in the comments and I'll redirect.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote about this. I contributed to the WeHeal book, Wellness to Wonderful, and I did the sleep chapter. So I did a lot of research about that. And human beings are meant to, we're meant to, in nature, we're meant to get up with the sun, go to sleep with this when the sun goes down, get 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, and nap midday. So when you see these cultures in other countries that, like the blue zones, they most likely have a midday 20-minute nap or 45-minute nap, whatever it is, around noon. And that's probably why they created siesta, where everything shuts down. So people at the height of the heat during the day, they can rest. Because they've been up since the sun's been up. So that's the healthiest way. Of course, that's not realistic. Where, I was up watching Netflix last night. So we've changed our clocks. So the most important thing is just to make sure you're getting enough sleep, and it's good quality sleep. That will really help fight the fatigue. And also honoring our body. Like, there's certain times of the day, if we've been up, since, 6, 7, 8 in the morning, and it's midday and we're feeling tired, that's not unusual, that we need to find time to rest. Whether that, if you work in an office, it might not mean taking a nap, but it might mean going someplace and closing the door and just relaxing and putting your feet up for 20 minutes, taking a break instead of a coffee break, which is what we all do, which is also, instead of honoring our body's need to rest, we're putting, we're stimulating it. So oftentimes fatigue can be helped by just monitoring our sleep and make sure we're getting good quality sleep.
That's awesome information. Like for me, when I run myself down, like normally I can do 7.5, 8 hours. Like I love sleep. Like sleep works for me. Like
I need 7, at least. 7 is the minimal amount I need to be able to function.
I'm the same way. And by that, I mean, I'm just so hateful and impatient that I can hardly have a whole thought conversation with myself. So it doesn't have, some people can get up and sleep 4 or 5 hours and actually do a full functional day. Like I can do it knowing I'm going to go back to sleep in the afternoon for a little bit, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Someone else is saying, Jay says, I'm severely depressed with 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Dr. McDougall says not to sleep as much and get up. And I would say that works for you, so that's perfect. And I think much like everything else, much like calories, like there's no one calorie thing for all women who are 50 years old should have X amount of calories and exercise X amount of minutes, right?
Well, the person who commented, they must be getting whatever amount of sleep they are sleeping, they're sleeping well, because there definitely are people who need less sleep. My husband's one of them. He can sleep 6 hours and he's fine. But when he sleeps, he is out. He is sleeping, so that's perfectly normal too. There are some people who don't need as much sleep.
Yeah, and the only danger, and I always put this in because I feel like, especially in our community, we like to hear one thing and then it's the truth. But, and I'm not saying that Dr. McDougall's wrong. I think maybe some people who are having severe depression, perhaps they are sleeping too much, and if they try not sleeping as much and it makes them feel better, that is the best and easiest solution possible. But
Well, and also, there's a really great book I want to recommend, and maybe you can put it in the show notes. It's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and it addresses everything we're talking about. And one of those things for mood that I've also learned when I was doing the research for the book on sleep and mood is that the circadian rhythm is really important. So even if you're not getting up with sun and going to sleep with the sun, in the morning when you do get up, getting your face in the sunlight when you wake up, and then at night when you're going to bed, having your lights really dimmed for a while before you go to sleep, because that will also affect your mood and your sleep.
oh, that's really great advice, Lisa.
Yeah.
Um, and Kelly's saying, do you know of any herbs for night sweats and menopausal night sweats?
Yeah, I legally can't recommend herbs as a health coach,
Okay.
but there are fantastic Chinese herbs and also Western herbs, and these are ones that I've read about, there's Damiana, I think it's called. Um, I'm trying to remember what the other ones are off the top of my head, but there are several that you can get at places like the supplement department at Whole Foods or Sprouts. Just ask the person who works there. I'm having a brain fart right now, but there are a lot that are sort of well known for those that help a lot of people. Evening primrose was the other one I was thinking of. It was
Oh,
evening
yeah.
primrose and black. Is it black cohosh or
Black
blue
cohosh
cohosh?
for
Black
women,
cohosh.
for
Yeah.
women
So
parts.
yeah, but they have good formulas I've seen too, and I think I tried one by Gaia. Is a brand that has a lot of those types of formulas. And if you have an acupuncturist who practices Chinese herbs, I found personally that the Chinese herbs helped me a lot. But you definitely need to get those from someone who can, who's a practitioner who knows how to prescribe them, because the formulas are very individual.
And that's great too. And I am apt to ask you things that I don't know that you can or can't say. So please just be real clear about that. Because I just make recipes. I can answer all the questions about those, so that makes it easy. But like Diana's saying, she doesn't get proper sleep. She gets about 5.5 hours. Um, Kathy says, I wish I could learn to not care. And going back a conversation, I think when I was kind of saying, and I will also say, it's not that I don't care 24/7, but I think it's easier for me not to depend on other people's opinions or reactions to make me feel good. Does that make sense a little bit? So there's still some times I'll be like, because I'm on live video a lot, and I got to tell you, I don't rewatch it. Like if I have to go pull some stuff out, I will. I try to get Cheryl to do it.
I don't either.
Right? Because I'm not like in love with myself or anything like that. I'm here for you guys. I'm not here because I'm like, oh, someone needs to see this jaw line the way it is now. No. So I do try to take things as much as possible out of my decision-making capabilities or out of my environment that would cause me to do things that are going to trigger me into getting real like, I see this, and this means
Well,
usually I see this and I'm like, oh, I smiled a
yeah.
lot. Yay.
Well, I do a lot of spiritual work and study about the mind and psychology. And one of the things that's helped me about the not caring, and it's not that you don't care, it's just that you don't, like you said, you don't let it impact you. But just knowing, like for me, it's a control issue. We cannot change anyone else's perception about anything. People are going to, I can't make somebody think differently of me than the way I am. Like I can only be me, and I'm not going to try to be something different, because you'll never please everyone. So the most important thing is to be your authentic self. And then you can't control the rest. That's the thing that I've come to. You can't change anyone else's mind.
That's one of the things I think that happens to me. That was a big, like, little peak in my growing older and getting smarter, is really stopping trying to change other people's behaviors and instead use those behaviors to say, can I change something so that this still works, or does this just not work anymore? And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard, and it's threatening to the status quo, even in your own brain sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, I was a people pleaser my whole life. And so, you're all constantly going to care what people think. I'm not so much of a people pleaser now. Obviously, I'm a health coach and I want my clients to be happy, but I'm only going to attract the clients who resonate with me personally. If they don't, they're going to go to another health coach, and I can't change, I can't be who they need me to be. I can only be who I am and offer what I offer. Just like you as what you do, right? So, but it's like that, I think, everyone, I love that Anais Nin quote. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And it's so true, right? Everybody sees the world through their own lens, and they see people through their own lens. And we can't change other people's perceptions. We can only change the way we're being. And to me, that has to be the authentic to yourself.
And when I've talked about authenticity in situations like bloggers at work situations, so like blogger conference or with video people, or I taught people how to do live video for a while, and it's one of the most impossible things to explain, how to be authentic. And then it's also one of the most inauthentic things to talk about is authenticity, right? Because then it's no longer just organic. But I do think that just being yourself, doing the least harm you can do being yourself, I would like to preface, because then I think there's a whole lot of people like, well, I'm just going to be myself, and your hair's gray now, and you've got a wrinkle on your chin. No, we don't need that either. We need it within our own lane. Because I do see some people growing older and growing meaner. Like, being honest is really important, but being mean is not helpful in a way. Like, maybe that's my opinion.
I think for authenticity, really, and I learned a lot of this working with Dr. Lederman and Dr. Pulde, is that we're so conditioned from a very young age of being told what to do and how to be, whether it was from our parents or our teachers or law enforcement or our siblings or whoever it was, that it takes work to figure out intrinsically what's motivating us, right? Because we've had all this extrinsic motivation. And so it does take practice to figure out, what do I really want for myself? What do I really want to do? What values are important to me? Not what my parents told me, not what my teachers told me, but what's valuable to me, what's important to me, what are those things that are going to make me truly fulfilled. So that's, to me, that's authenticity. It's just really like just uncovering all the noise and just checking in with yourself. And it takes some work when you're used to especially a people pleaser, when you're doing things for everybody all the time.
Sorry, the dog is having a fit and I'm yelling. It was me. It's because I slammed the door shut, and he's like, someone knocked on the door.
Let me in.
But all that really makes a lot of sense. We are having some more conversation about sleep maybe before we wrap up for today. And you guys, if you have a topic you want us to talk about while we're doing this new Thursday series, obviously it's not happening next week, but it'll happen the week after if Lisa's still into it. So
I'm always into talking to you.
I know.
And hearing what your viewers are interested in, and what they resonate with.
Yeah, and I think it's just it's a new topic, and I think it's really good for us to talk about some of these things a lot. And I think when you keep talking about the authenticity and thinking about those things, I think that some people don't start thinking about those questions or asking themselves those questions until they're in their 50s, 60s, and that's when our wisdom comes in, supposedly, right? I think we all, I know I do, maybe you don't, but sometimes depending on the situation, I feel like I'm still like 12 years old or 17 years old, and I'm like, well, so I think those things don't always go away unless we work really hard on them.
Yeah. And you know what? And that will change over time because what was valuable, what I valued in my 20s was different from what I value now, and what's important to me. And so I think it's important to always know that that could change. But the ability to check in with yourself is is one that I've had to develop, you know.
But and it is always interesting. I think some of it too depends on your. I'm trying to think of a good way to say it, because to me, I think of it as my how neurotic on the neurotic scale am I today? If I'm a 2, I'm a listener. I can reason this out. If I'm like on an 11, a lot of this doesn't come in. So I think a lot of it's just doing some of this stuff every day, and then it. I think in a way I'm personally preparing for the election crazy, because I'm worried about the level of stress that it's going to cause me. And so I kind of go, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, and I have a friend who is super politically active, and I'm so proud of her, and I support her in any way I can, just like I do the animal rescuers. I can't go rescue animals. I will not survive mentally, emotionally, to live my old life that I want to have. And the same thing is like, and maybe this is something we can talk about in a future one, because it's what makes me most nervous about my health journey right now is having a depressive episode. Because right now, like since we've been doing this in July, I haven't had one. I've had some tired days. I've been cranky. I had some 5-hour sleep days that they weren't productive, but they didn't take anything away from everything. Like depression kind of takes things away. And I'm watching some other talks with Chef AJ, and I had actually said, I feel like when I'm depressed, that's when I feel like, because I'm not thinking about things, I'm just surviving, and that is when I'm more likely to eat off plan or not do what I'm supposed to do, and it's a natural reaction. But so my little fear point is like, because I unsubscribe from all the things, and I don't know about you, but I'm already getting like 4 or 5 emails, political emails a day. Then you
And texts. I get texts as well.
Oh, yes. And I'm like, just because you text me all year round, I will not give you any money. So if anyone's out there wondering why, I'm not. But it's just like, so for me, I've again tried to define what my lane is. My lane in politics right now is, if there's a primary that I should be voting in, I shall vote in it. Then if there's the next time that I'm supposed to vote, I will vote in it. So I go and I do all the voting, but I can't carry all that other information, and it's going to be crazy. It's been so crazy the past couple of cycles.
Yeah. Well, I think you just hit on something. We all need to vote. That's really, really important. And our son is very, very politically active. He's worked on campaigns, and he's helped gotten people elected and stuff. And so he's the politically active one. But the one thing I have learned from him, from my 19-year-old son, is it's something I just blew off before, was the local elections are hugely important. Like I've been good citizen like the last few years, making sure to, and if I don't know about a candidate or something on the bill or the, whatever it is that, is, in that election, I make sure to find out, because those local elections really do eventually affect these national elections. So it's really, really important.
That's an amazing point, and it's doable. It's doable even if the stress affects you the way it does me. Like that all you have to do, and actually for us, I go to the library even. So it's like it's not far, and then if it's
So easy.
like a big election. I think it was a couple elections ago, North Carolina put together a thing, and you could see what the wait was at all the voting centers you could go to.
Yes, it's really, there's a lot of resources for that now.
It was delicious.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. So vote. It's just like, we vote with our dollars every time we shop, right? And so if we want our leadership to change, we need to be good, civically active, or however it's called.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that to you guys because you may have something different that you're a little nervous about, and I think Betsy said I'm being so open and honest. Hit the nail on the head with me for depression sneaking in, and I think like I wasn't anxious really that much before COVID. So I had a lot of tools for depression. I had zero tools for anxiety. And so I'm working on trying to, figure out what things help me. Walking actually helps me a lot when I'm anxious. If I start to feel anxious happening, to just stop what I'm doing if I'm able to, and even just take a 10-minute walk. But I think a lot of these things still kind of come in with aging and making changes. If it's just a little change about how you feel about yourself, or that, for me at this moment, everything's going so well with eating whole food, plant-based, no oil. It's not being that big a deal. And we're not worried about our vacation or anything. So I think now, but before I was thinking of that, now I'm like, oh, I think we have that part down. So now I'm going to go to the next thing that I think I need to fix and work on.
Well, for anxiety, breathing is really important, because I suffer from both depression and anxiety and have for a long time. So there are things I've had to find tools to manage. Breath work. If I am really anxious, I usually find I'm not breathing, and just doing like, breathing in for 7 counts and out for 8, or counting my breaths, or just making my breath stretch for a long time. Just focusing on the breath will help me bring down my nervous system, will calm down. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Oh, I think those are great. And one of the things that I was doing, so I do the Peloton app and the Peloton stuff.
Same here, so do I.
Okay, so you understand. So I always feel like I have to justify it. So for those of you out in the world who are rolled your eyes really big, I like that kind of happy, like, high five, you're doing awesome. I'm like, yes, I am. Because I'll never say that to myself. I think a lot of you may not like that. But I love the meditations and the workouts because you can pick 5 minutes to an hour. What can you do right now? I'm about to have a panic attack. 5 minutes sounds great. Here's the thing. I can click on it and I can sometimes for me, having something I can passively do, have someone else say, take this long breath, can be really helpful. But I think developing more of a quieting practice. Dr. Lim from Dr. McDougall program, one of the things he emphasized to me is like, you don't have to believe or be a part of a religion, but something that's focusing you, and something that you believe in, and something that you can keep coming back to that you feel is a little bigger than just yourself. And Kaiser Cornell, he told me about her stuff. And so like she does a thing that, like, let's say it's 5-day free email thing. So the thing is like if you go, oh, something in me feels angry. Let me do that. And so just by saying that one little thing, I don't know if you've heard this, this was like world changing to me. You're basically making it a feeling is this big and I am this big. Whereas usually you're like, I'm angry, right? We're the whole thing, and I'm just this little voice in here trying to survive the anger. And it kind of switches that, and it allows you to be compassionate to it. Because Dr. Lim was also talking about, for me, he goes, And I teared up. He's like, what I want you to do is love on the part of you want to cut out of yourself. Because it was there and it did really important things for you.
Oh yeah, emotions are they're necessary and they're also fleeting, right? It's like you're not going to stay angry all the time. You're going to have anger and then it's going to go. That's why I love the work I'm doing with my friend Mark, the Internal Family Systems, IFS, because you're looking at your emotions and you're embracing all those parts of you, like you really look up close at them. It's really interesting. It's like all your little emotions, or all your emotions, not little emotions, are like a little family inside of you. You know, they're like your children. And so you're learning to embrace them all.
Oh, that's really good. And I don't know much about that. So I'll have to look into that because Kathy said she was doing that and she was in my cohort for the McDougall program. And so I can ask her some more about it too. We do have a couple of questions now that, of course, I'm going to have to leave soon.
Yeah, same here, but go ahead.
These could be future shows too. So I'll mention it to you, Lisa, because after my vacation, my mind will be clear and blank and lovely. So we explain a little more detail on how you treated your menopause symptoms. So I think we can talk about that. Other people are talking about, I don't watch the news. And
Smart.
Yeah, it is a trigger because if it's something you can't physically do something about, it's really hard to do anything. And so, oh good, we were talking about voting and all kinds of stuff. And let's talk about this on a whole. Oh, Apple is certified in IFS. Of course you are, Monique.
Wonderful. Oh, wow.
And Apple is just always just a bright, shining light here in the community.
Hi, Apple.
I know. And Angela is kind of asking, how do we counter arguments about non-vegan arguments and things like that? But I think that should be moved over to another show. Basically, I will say one quick thing. Dr. Lyle likes to say to people, my doctor has me on this crazy diet. Who knows if it works, but this is what I'm eating now.
Absolutely. I'm, the jury's still out. I'm, trying it out. That's what he says. It's that getting along without going along. He has a whole talk on that on YouTube.
Right. And I know that's not people aren't going to change their minds with the facts. The facts are all out there. So, and I think one of the great things about kind of doing this aging well is you don't have to change everybody's mind. Now, if that's your goal, maybe you have to look at things differently than I am. My goal is not to turn everybody vegan or plant-based. My goal is to make delicious food that everyone's going to want to eat. And then I'm talking about our, Cheryl's walking around, but our process of us releasing some of this weight, doing a whole food plant-based diet.
Listen, it's human nature to defy anyone telling you what to do in terms of like things like veganism. So that will never work. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right. And Diana is also saying, are you allergic to or have an intolerance of? And I think that, you don't owe everybody an explanation about your whole life. And I feel like 58 and a half, that is my mantra. I do not owe now I may choose to hang out with you guys and share some of my insights or how I feel and listen to you and take some of that in, but that's a gift. That's not a given. I'm not going to walk up to someone else and go, hey, why are you eating that hamburger? Because they're going to be like, you are a crazy person. Why are you in my face? Right? Because there's a reason that whatever we have, there's a backlash in the exact opposite, I think. And also, I do think that Dr. McDougall's people want to hear good news about their bad habits. It's true. It's me too. It's me too.
Yeah. Well, I recommend eat more plants. That's what I recommend. Eat more plants.
And I just try to make a really inclusive environment where people who maybe aren't eating meat now come here and they try a few things and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. That tasted pretty good. And so that's why I named my blog when I started in 2009 or whatever, Healthy Slow Cooking instead of Vegan Slow Cooking. because I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
everyone to feel welcome and no one to feel kind of put off or like I was going to try to make the. I don't have the energy to make myself do all the things I want to do. I certainly don't have the energy to make everybody else do it.
Well, I definitely look forward to continuing all these conversations. And so when you get back, let's talk a little bit more about menopause and some of these things because they're different paths for different people, but I definitely have some things that I've tried that worked for me.
That'd be great. And even if you can just lead people, if you want to give me some websites and stuff to put up to begin with that people could look
Okay.
at when I schedule it, because that'd be great. Because we don't want to put Lisa in peril and ask her what 5 supplements to use before you go to sleep or something like that. I will say that I use some magnesium and it helps me get drowsy because
Same
evidently
here.
I don't have enough magnesium. My friend I was talking to, all it does is make her poop, which means she has enough magnesium.
Well, there's different kinds of magnesium. Like magnesium citrate makes me poop. Magnesium glycinate helps me sleep. There's like, and then there's another one. So you have to figure out which one of the magnesiums actually works for you.
That would be a fun conversation too. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. I know you've been like
Thank you,
Miss
Kathy.
World Traveler and you've been hanging out with me and doing all these things, but have an amazing day. Know that
You as well.
we all just adore you.
And I adore you, and I adore all your viewers, and I'm excited to tackle some of these topics, and I want to wish you a wonderful trip.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Apple's saying there's like eight magnesiums. I'm like, I don't know.
Right,
All
right.
right. Okay,
I need to
everybody.
connect with Apple.
I know, take a walk, have a quiet moment, just do something to honor whatever's going on with you today and just try and just sit with it for just a little bit if you can. And then maybe that little voice or that pissed off voice or whatever will tell you something that'll be super helpful. So that's what I'm sending you off with today. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Okay? Bye.